So you've decided that you want to apply to Cambridge, you've got the predicted grades to be able to submit your application, you've thought about the course you want to apply for, and now you're realising that you also need to pick a college. Well, this is the video that is going to really help you because I'm going to be breaking down how you should be picking a college. You've got the option to submit an open application, which means that you're submitting an application not directly to a college, but to Cambridge University itself. If you do choose to do that, then you're just going to be assigned to a random college to do your interview at, and that would be the college that you're essentially being applied to. So that'll be the college that if they accept you, you'll be taken into. But the vast majority of people don't submit an open application. I think it's about 20% will do that. Most people will apply to a specific college. And if you're thinking about choosing one, I'm going to break down everything that you need to know. I'm Erin, I'm just finishing my first year. I've just finished my first year actually, studying land economy at St John's College, Cambridge. Of course, St John's is the best college, so you should apply to St John's. That is the end of the video. But not for long. No, I really wanted to do that. No, we're actually going to be talking about how you should be comparing them. There are several factors that you really need to be thinking of, and we're going to be covering pretty much everything, but the major things include the size of the college, the location of the college, whether it actually offers your course, because not all colleges offer all courses, what the music, sports and society are like, and the facilities are like at every single one of the colleges, as well as some other features, such as some colleges are really well known for their cheap bar, some colleges are well known for having their sports facilities on site, some colleges are well known for being much more lively, whilst others are quieter. So there's a lot of things that you need to understand, and the Cambridge Open Days were very recently, so if you did go, you probably got a bit of an idea as to what the colleges feel like, because I think vibes are actually very important. That being said, I never went to a Cambridge Open Day, I never visited my college until offer order day. So I didn't really pick based on vibes, but I think had I picked based on vibes, I still would have picked St John's. You can pick up vibes basically from certain things that I'm going to mention in this video, but that was a very lengthy introduction, so let's get into things. Before I start talking about all of the different things that we're going to be comparing on, I want to tell you about three places actually, that you're going to be able to find more information about each of the colleges. The first is a very helpful website, basically called cambridgecolleges.com, I'm pretty sure, or .org, and it lists all of the colleges and allows you to just explore the basic facts, but we're going to be going through all of those basic facts in this video. It's just if you want something that's more written down. The second place that you're going to want to look, but if you do want something written down, then in the bio I do have a link to a spreadsheet that basically compares all the colleges on everything that I'm going to be talking about in this video, so you do go and have a look at that. But the second thing that you're going to look at are the colleges' web pages themselves. Those are generally very good. They can be a bit annoying to navigate sometimes, but a lot of colleges have redone their websites over recent years, so I do think they're pretty good. John's have just redone theirs, and theirs is great now. But the second thing, because the college webpage itself is obviously very advertising, and it's a lot for current students as well as prospective students, and also generally about the research of the college as well. But if you want something that's going to be a lot more tailored to prospective students, I want you to go to the JCR website of the college. So if you type in, I don't know, St John's College, Cambridge, JCR, that stands for Junior Combination Room, and it's basically the body that all undergraduates at the college are going to be a member of. And that webpage just details lots of things about undergraduate life. There are parts that are just for current students, but there are parts of that website page, pretty much every single college will have an alternative prospectus, which tells you all about the social scene at that college, all of the societies, what it's like to get involved in college life. That is a wonderful resource. The first thing that we're going to discuss is location, because this is generally the thing that most people really care about first and foremost. Now, the vast majority of colleges are central because Cambridge is small. Cambridge is not a big city, and for example, my morning run, if I run a 5k, I pass pretty much 20 of the colleges, so they are really quite compact around the centre. There are outlying colleges, but the extent to which they're outlying depends. There are the hill colleges. Now, the hill colleges, I have a list here because my brain doesn't work, are Murray Edwards, Fitzwilliam, Churchill, I would say Eddie's as well, Lucy Cavendish. This list is kind of interesting. But those are sort of the hill colleges. They are up on the hill, which basically means they are just past St John's and Magdalen. There's a little hill that goes up kind of towards the maths faculty, and they're up there. That is not really outside of Cambridge, but it is more outside than the other colleges, which makes them feel like outlying colleges. That being said, it is a 10-minute walk into the centre of Cambridge. So you're not actually that far out. If you have a bike, you're basically 2 minutes away from central Cambridge. So I wouldn't get too stressed. The two that you do need to consider when it comes to location are Girton and Homerton. Girton is quite far north of the city, and Homerton is quite far south of the city. So if you've ever been to Cambridge and you've gone to the train station, the walk into Cambridge is fairly long. Homerton is further than the train station, and Girton is out in the town of Girton, which is just outside of Cambridge. It's from St John's to Girton about 3 kilometres. So from the top of Cambridge, because John's is sort of the top of the city, if that makes sense, it's about 3k to get to Girton, and it's similar to get to Homerton, I think about 3.5k to get to Homerton. So they're not extraordinarily far out. If you have a bike, you're kind of okay, but you've got to remember that it gets really cold and wet in the winter. And sometimes cycling into central Cambridge to get to a lecture where you're going to be absolutely soaking wet is not ideal. That being said, I do have friends who applied to Girton and Homerton specifically because they love the fact that they are outlying colleges, that they feel much more like little collegiate communities, which is true because they are further out, more people will spend more time at the college. So that is a really personal thing that you want to be thinking about. But when it comes to the rest of the colleges, in terms of location, you can get everywhere you need very, very easily. Now, if you really want to be rolling out of bed and going into your lectures, think about what subject you're doing. So if you're doing humanities or economics, which is a great argument for economics being a humanity, then you're going to be based on the Sidgwick side. This is things like history, economics, law, English, languages. They're all based on this site called Sidgwick. Now, if you want to be able to roll out of your bed and get to your Sidgwick lectures, then think about colleges. Newnham, if you're a girl, because Newnham and Murray Edwards, I should say, at this point are female-only colleges. So do bear that in mind, because obviously you're not going to apply to them if you don't fit the criteria. But Newnham, Selwyn, Clare, and certain parts of Gomlin Quays, like the Stephen Hawking building where they put a lot of freshers, is right next to Sidgwick site. So you are going to be rolling out of bed into your lectures. But don't think about that if you're not doing those subjects, because if you're doing, for example, engineering, then your faculty is much further out. It's kind of towards the train station. If you're going to be doing things more like chemistry, then similarly, you're further out. Downing is very close to that. There's also the Downing site, which houses a lot of STEM-based subjects and lectures. So obviously Downing is really close to the Downing side. So is Peterhouse. So basically have a look on a map. And if you really value proximity to lectures, then choose your college accordingly. But like I say, location doesn't really matter because it's a really small city. Alongside mentioning that Newnham and Medwards are female colleges, I should also note that there are mature student-only colleges. So these are, if you're applying to university age 21 plus, things like St Edmund's College, Wolfson College, Darwin. I think those are the 3, which are postgrad colleges. There might be another one that I'm missing off. There's Clare Hall. I knew I was missing something. There's Clare Hall as well. So obviously only apply for those sorts of colleges if you fit the criteria. And the other thing you need to think about is if you're doing a perhaps slightly more niche course, then there are going to be colleges which do not accept your course. So I had this on the list because I obviously don't know this off by heart, but there are certain colleges, for example, that don't offer vet med. So that would be Christ's, that would be Clare, that would be King's, Pembroke and Trinity don't offer vet med. And then there are quite a few that actually don't offer land economy. Christ's, Churchill, Corpus Christi, King's, Peterhouse, they don't offer land ec. And there are some other interesting ones, like for example, Homerton doesn't offer classics, and Robinson doesn't offer classics, or St Cat's doesn't offer archaeology. It also doesn't offer vet med. I think I left that off. Or yeah, just random things. You basically need to have a little look, like architecture, ASNAC. These ones come up. Oh, even Peterhouse doesn't offer geography, which is kind of weird. But these are all things that you want to be thinking about. Make sure that you're going to be applying to a college that offers your course. You won't be allowed to apply to a college if it doesn't offer your course, but like I don't want you to waste your time thinking about a college that you then realise doesn't offer your course. So obviously check that as a priority. And the second priority that you're going to want to think about is the size of the college, because some colleges are very large. I'm at one of the biggest colleges, the second biggest. Trinity is the biggest, and some colleges are very small. The smallest is Peterhouse. So for example, Trinity is the biggest. It has an intake of about 200 undergraduates per year. Peterhouse is the smallest. It has an intake of about 80. So that is quite a substantial difference. And it very much depends. If you're the kind of person like myself who wants a big community of people in the same year as you, then obviously go for a larger college. If not, go for a smaller college. But the vast majority of colleges are circa 150. So it's quite a good number. It's probably a lot more than you had in your sixth form. Or actually, it could be less than you had in your sixth form. I don't know. I think I went to quite a small sixth form. So it very much depends. Now, what you will find a lot when you're looking at colleges is 3 words to describe that college. A lot of the time, those words come from people who are already at the college. So everyone's going to describe their college as sort of kind and fun and lively. I think that things that you do want to think about are, for example, Christ has topped the Tompkins table a few times, so it's quite academic. It's known for being quite academic, but that doesn't overshadow the fact that there is still a lot of events and a lot of social life in there. So I don't think the roles of the colleges are particularly entrenched, with the exception of maybe Trinity, because it takes a massive intake of mathmos, people who study maths, and they even get their own name, Trinmos. So that sort of does play into stereotype. But again, there's plenty of people at Trin who are not like that at all. So I really don't think these like 3 words to describe a college really mean all that much. What I will say, however, is the larger, richer colleges generally have more money to spend on their students. So St John's, so Trinity, I think Downing spends quite liberally on students as well. They will generally offer more bursaries. So for example, as a student of John's, I get £300 every year to spend on academic essentials, so textbooks, laptop, iPad, whatever I want. And also if you get a first, you get a scholarship, which carries a financial prize. I think Trinity even pays for your masters, which is kind of insane. Whereas smaller colleges such as Lucy Cavendish have had financial difficulties. So you might want to be thinking about that. That being said, it's not going to make or break your experience necessarily. But what it does mean is that sometimes at smaller colleges with a lower endowment, the accommodation can be more costly. But obviously, if that is a big issue, Cambridge offers the Cambridge bursary to everyone. There are things you can apply for, like the Stormzy scholarship. If you have financial need, but you are academically capable, you'll be fine at Cambridge because there are funds to support you going. Now let's have a little think about facilities. We're going to think about sports facilities and we're going to think about music facilities. Now for sports, there are 2 things that you might be concerned about: having an on-site gym and having on-site sports pitches. You might also be concerned about being close to the University Sports Centre. So the University Sports Centre itself is over on West Hub, which is a site that is, clues in the name, west of Cambridge. And it's a bit of a walk or a cycle to get there. I think from John's to West Hub, it takes me about 15-20 minutes to get there. So it's not like immediately close. And obviously it's on the west side. So if you're towards the east or you're quite, Girton, Homerton, then it's going to be further for you to get to the University Sports Centre. So that's going to be pertinent if you're playing any university sports such as football, such as rugby. Well, rugby's at the rugby ground, but it's kind of, no, the rugby ground's much further in. So if you're playing more like football, if you're playing more athletics, or if you're doing anything in the sports centre building itself, so if you require courts, so badminton, there's squash courts in there for the university. A lot of colleges has its own squash courts, however. Those are things that you might want to consider. But in terms of the college facilities, there's also Girton. The consolation you get for being very far out is you have your own indoor pool, which is really quite cool. There are a couple of colleges that have like a little weird in-college pool, but they're not really swimming pools. If you want outdoor swimming, and then go to Jesus Green Lido, you can get a pretty good student discount for Jesus Green Lido. But you're thinking about thinking about whether you have on-site pitches, on-site pitches and like tennis courts and that sort of thing, an on-site gym. Now, colleges with an on-site gym, we've got Christ's, Downing, Emma, Fitzwilliam, then Homerton, Jesus, Medwards, Newnham, Pembroke. Is that Peterhouse? No, Peterhouse doesn't. Queen's, Robinson, St Cat's, John's, Selwyn, Sydney, Sussex, Trin and Trinity Hall all have on-site gyms, which I never used because I just kind of got a different gym membership. But it's a good facility to have, and you'll be able to think about like whether the fields are on-site or off-site. Not many have on-site fields. Churchill does. Churchill has excellent on-site fields, I must say. They're like really, really good. John's is, what do they classify it here? Yeah, John's is basically on the site. It's just across the road. So I'm counting that as on-site because you actually don't have to move very far at all. But for example, Girton, Homerton, Jesus all have a lot of sports facilities that are really, really close. So it's not like a be-all and end-all, but it's quite nice in the winter months when it's dark early, when it's cold, and you just want to get to your sports. Now, boathouses are another thing to consider. If you want to become a rower and get indoctrinated into the Cambridge University rowing cult, then think about your proximity to the boathouses, because all the boathouses are in the same place on the River Cam. They are basically from sort of Midsummer Common and just along Midsummer Common. So they're all in that basic stretch of the Cam, which is north of the city itself. Midsummer Common there's like the city, then you get Jesus Green, and then you have Midsummer Common. So if you're really quite far south, so not even, Homerton, obviously you're miles away, Girton, you're still miles away, but if you're like a really southern in the city college, so you're a sort of a Downing or a Peterhouse, then it is going to take you longer to get to the boathouses. Given that you're rowing at like 6:30, 7 in the morning, that might be something that you want to consider. Johns is very close to the Boat Houses, so is Magdalen. I personally don't have that much experience with the music because I'm not very musical, but some colleges have very good reputation for music, and you want to be thinking about, okay, the vast majority of colleges will have practice rooms that you can use. The vast majority of colleges will also have auditoriums that hold events, but there are colleges that are more known for music or that are more known for singing. So obviously if you're an amazing singer and you want to go for a choir scholarship, go for a choir scholarship, or an organ scholarship if you play the organ. That's really cool, go you. But the choirs of certain colleges are obviously more well known than the choirs of other colleges. King's being a pertinent example. They do the, I want to say Christmas Eve carol service. This is really poor form. I should know whether it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, but they do a very famous carol service, and they do a lot of other singing events. The Johns choir is very well known as well. Most will have a chapel choir. Most colleges have evensong that you can like freely go to, which is really, really lovely, and it's sometimes the best way to end your day. I highly recommend going to evensong. John's has evensong basically every single day, so it's really, really lovely. But again, if you're musical, something for you to consider. That was quite a comprehensive guide to all the Cambridge colleges. As I say, there is a spreadsheet which basically condenses all of this information into a couple of cells. So I would go take a look at that if you are interested. If you have any questions about certain colleges, let me know in the comments, and good luck with your Cambridge application.